At Family History Fanatics, we love getting viewer questions. Here is a question from one of our viewers. Would I be wrong to assume a record is about my ancestor if a source I find has the same year of birth or death and is in generally the same residence or place? Okay, I hope you understand what that means. Somebody does a search online looking for more records about their ancestor, and they're wondering, of all the hints that they find from Ancestry or Find My Past or other websites, how do they know which record belongs to their ancestor? Let's take a look at how to make that determination. Howdy, I'm Devin Noel Lee, and we love to answer questions about how do you research online. And instead of just give you some general principles, we're going to give you an insight into actually researching a name. Now, to answer the question very quickly that was posed, how do you know if it's right, if it's the same birthday and same residence? The short answer, it depends. You can't just look at a few little facts and say, that's my ancestor. You need to build a case of information before you can say this record pertains to my ancestor rather than somebody else with the same name, roughly the same birthday, living in the same location. Believe it or not, it happens more times than you think. So when you find matches or research results on Ancestry, FamilySearch, and the other online databases, you need to go deeper into the records before you attach it. Some of the things you're looking for are information that ties that person to another known person. Maybe you're looking for a person named Street Morgan, who I will show you actually online in a moment, some of her search results. When you look for Street Morgan, you need to connect Street to someone else because there are a lot of streets in the database. I had no idea how popular the name Street was for a first name or even a middle name. So in any case, what you want to do is take Street and connect her to somebody else, her parents, if you know her parents' name, her husband, or a child. When you can make that case, then you have stronger evidence that the record you find is for the street that you are indeed researching. Other things that can help you identify if you found a record for your ancestor is occupation information. If you're looking for a Paul Smith, who is a dentist, and you find records of Paul Smith as a dentist, chances are you have the right Paul. But if you find Paul Smith, who is an engineer, might not be your guy, unless he changed fields. But it's not usually going to happen that someone who studied medicine is then going to suddenly be an engineer. So let's go to Ancestry.com. Let's look for Street Morgan and her search results and see if we can find additional records for her in Ancestry.
So let's look for Street Morgan in Galveston County, Texas, who was born in 1903. Ancestry will deliver up a number of search results based on the information I put in the search fields. The first hint I see is the 1940 census, and I know that this is my individual. She's living in Galveston. She was born in 1903. She has the husband, Walter, and she has the son, John David Morgan, that I had been following. The next hint I see is 1930. Street Morgan, she's born in Texas. It doesn't say the year on this profile page, but I can examine it further if it looks like it's a possibility. It says she's living in Harris County. Now, if you are familiar with Texas, Harris and Galveston County are neighbor counties. They're very close to one another. So it's not unheard of for Harris County and Galveston County individuals to move that far. That's not unrealistic. But on this information alone, am I going to be able to prove that this Street Morgan is that Street Morgan? I need to dig a little further. I can click on the 1930 profile. Always go ahead and check the original image, but we're doing a quick view right now to see if there's clues that will help us to determine if the 1940 Street Morgan is this 1930 Street Morgan. We have the Walter and we have the John Morgan, so that looks promising. What other piece of information will help me connect? Probably more information about Walter, her occupation, and things of that nature. I see a death certificate, and on this death certificate, I have a maiden name for Gillespie. Ooh, I'm getting excited. I didn't know what her maiden name was at first. Is this her? She's living in Galveston. The birth date's about right, but it's in North Zolch. And I didn't know that she's from North Zolch, and I really didn't know any of her parents' names. So I need to look further at this record to see if there's anything that jumps out at me as to if this is my street Morgan or not. I see a signature for the doctor. She's cremated. The informant's name is this Randy Cook. It looks like Randy Cook. If I knew that Randy Cook is my relative as part of the street Morgan, that would be a fabulous clue as to if this record pertains to her or not. There's a social security number. If I happen to know street Morgan's social security number or her home address at the time of her death, all of these would help me know that this is actually her. But I don't know these facts just yet, so I need to keep digging. One other hint is this one for street Morgan in Find a Grave. If I click through to Find a Grave, I find out that she has a burial plot marker in the Forest Park East Cemetery in Harris County. I could look up where Webster is in relation to Galveston, but this is 1979, so 1940 to 1979, she still could have moved away from Galveston. And then I don't have children information. I don't have parental information. I do have a husband, but I'm still lacking some piece of information to say any or all of these records actually pertain to relatives that I'm researching. So one of the things I like to do is look for streets and look for Walter and see if they have any records for the children that I know of. So I'm going to hop over to FamilySearch.org because it's a lot easier to research on FamilySearch.org. Once I'm logged in, I can go over to records, and this time I'm going to put Walter Morgan, and then I'm going to put a spouse named Street. And I'm going to keep everything blank right now. I can always filter down my results later. Once again, I find Walter and Street and that 1940 census that I already know about with this John David Morgan. One other thing to point out is Walter is born in Mississippi. Street was born in Texas and then they relocated to Texas. That clue helps me greatly. We have another Walter with this 1930 census. We saw that on Ancestry, but noticed here, child John David Morgan, and his mom is Street and his father is Walter once again. When we look at that actual image, we find that Walter is from Mississippi and Street is from Texas, and all of a sudden we go back to Ancestry to this very first record, the 1930, this death record, which was number 2, and that death record has the Gillespie last name, and it puts everything together. So it pays to look at all of the record hints and see how they fit together before we jump to any conclusions. And it also pays to check multiple sites for the information that they have and the evidence they have to see if you can build a case.
So what's the answer to our viewer's question? It depends. You have to go dig deeper and find a collection of records to prove your case. And sometimes you have to look at 3 different records before you can prove that the first record and the second and third match your relative. If you have additional questions on how to do genealogical research, not necessarily cracking through your brick walls, but just getting started and how to evaluate your records and other things that you find, leave them in the comment section below and we'll see what we can do to help you out.
If you like this video, be sure to press the red thumbs up so that this video will reach more viewers. Connect with us on Twitter and Facebook. Twitter at FH Fanatics or Facebook Family History Fanatics.